Okay, so this one is Haswell 4400 HP X360 i7 4500U. Clover 5127. The Big Sur does not have the recovery. So I think they're still working on it, but for booting, it will boot fine. MacBook Pro 112.11.2. And this is Haswell 4600 i7 47MQ 4700MQ. Okay. So this is Dell Big Sur. This is a Broadwell. For some reason, the Apple ALC does not load with Realtek ALC 255, so I have no sound on this Broadwell. Okay, so this is EliteBook 820 G3 i7 6600U HD 520. This one is Skylake. Okay, booting Big Sur Dell desktop. Clover 5127. Okay, so let's boot Catalina. So I'm going to boot from installer. So this one is NV13 KB Lake. i7 8650U. So we're going to boot from Big Sur via pre-boot. Okay, so we're in. So let's log in. I'm going to show you how to boot Catalina or Big Sur with the new 5127 Clover. So I recommend to go to Insanely Mac and go to the guide on how to update Clover for Big Sur compatibility using Open Runtime and Quarks. So the difference between the old one and this one is the Open Runtime and the Quarks. So let's go into it. To download the 5127, you can look at my tutorial on how to use BDU boot disk utility to create your flash drive. So this is Clover right here. Let's go through the structure of the EFI folder with Clover. But the purpose of this video is on concentrating on Clover. First thing is that in the boot, you have to have boot x64 EFI from Clover 5127. Inside the EFI folder, you should have the Clover. And let's look at everything is in the config file. So I have all the config files here for all of my laptop. I'll make it simple so that all we need to do is to change the graphics so you get full acceleration. So all of the config files for different platforms are the same except the devices. So the property is very important, is that which graphic card do you use and which IG platform ID you need to use. And the next one is that if you have Broadcom combo for the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, then you need to patch this one. Kext folder. So the Kext folder of Clover, they have everything inside of another folder called Other. This is where they're going to inject all of the Kext, which is like drivers, to your devices. So on the Big Sur, the important one you need is the Lilu, the newest one. I think now it's 1.5, but I'm using the 1.49. The whatevergreen, so 1.44. Virtual SMC, this is 1.14, but I'm not sure if I get the newest one. And Apple ALC is for 1.54. This one seems to have problem with the ALC 255 on my Broadwell. It doesn't load. So inside here, the ACPI battery manager.kext. Let's bring it over here. With this, you cannot use the SMC from OpenCore for Big Sur. You have to use the ACPI battery manager to get this one. The must-have in your other folder is ACPI, Apple ALC if you have the audio codec that support it, lilu, USB inject all if you have a laptop. If you don't have it, then you use different kext. Virtual SMC you need. Voodoo PS2 controller is what if you have a laptop. If you don't have it, then don't use that. Whatevergreen you must have. So, oh, by the way, you also need the Catalina ACI port for you to see the internal hard drive that's connected to SATA. So now, look at these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 must have. If you have Ethernet, so like this one has the mousy, the Intel Ethernet, you need, so that's why you have to know what you have in your system, okay? Don't just blindly do it. So one of my tutorials, I show you how to find out with the Windows what your stuffs are. You don't want to put many that it's not really, you don't really use. Then it's going to load all over the place. You also need codec commander for the Apple ALC. So it will load the sound for you after WEC. So it's working with the Apple ALC. I have DW1560 in here. So I did these 4 kexts. And these are from the website also. This is my modify, so I rename it. This one will work with both DW1828, which is the 4350, and also work with the 4360, which is the DW1560 or the EC123, the older, the bigger version. So this is called the kext folder. You don't need to put a lot in here. So virtual SMC. This one is the same as the fake SMC, but this is a version from OpenCore. So So you can play with it. You can change this one to replace this one with an original fake SMC, and it will work too. Okay, so let's look at the drivers. UEFI. All you need is APFS, IMU variable, that's for NVRAM, HFS plus, NTFS, NV Express, NVMe Express, and Open Runtime. You don't need so many of them in here like before. No more memory fix. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it nice? Only 6. The next one is ACPI. Clover. ACPI, inside the ACPI you have a patch folder where you store all of your AML, machine language. Now inside here, the only important thing is this. When I go through the config file, those files, the one you must have in here. This one I have so many. I have a lot of laptop with different patch DSTT, so that's the reason. So this one is for KB Lake i7 7500U and HD 620. So the ACPI. So this is the ACPI folder. It's in the patch folder. What you're gonna get. So the DSTT, you can put drop is no. Don't fix anything. If you look at your old one, I'm sure you have tons of fixes in there. This is put the name of the patch DSTT that you have. Okay? To have the battery and the instant wake. It's for sleep and wake. So you can watch my video on how to patch DSTT and SSDT patches. Now there's two ways you do this. You can patch whatever that you have. Actually, I should put this one with the pound sign. So there's two ways you can boot with Catalina or Big Sur. Is that if you use SSDT instead of patching. So if you look at your old one, you patch many things. So don't patch anything. All you need, make sure the OEM SSDT, okay? OEM is no. What do you need? If you boot without the EC, you need to patch. So if you search for PNP 0C09. So my original DSTT has the H_EC. So when I boot this one with a patch, it's renamed to EC. So whatever you open, this PNP 0C09, whatever device here, you change the name to EC for it to boot without kernel panic. Or if you don't patch anything, you can use the SSDT EC USB laptop. Now, the only confusing thing is this. On the older version, like Broadwell or earlier, you have to use a laptop. But the newer one, like Skylake, you need to use USB-C, USB-EC, USB-X laptop, or the SSD-T EC laptop. So either one of these two. One of them is for the older CPU, and the newer one is you use USB-X laptop. You need these two to boot without the kernel panic, or you can patch by renaming the PNP0C09. So some of them start with EC0, which mine doesn't have. Mine has the H_EC to EC. So this is important. If not, you're going to have an instant reboot because of the kernel panic. Okay? So for people who have Apple I2C controller on the trackpad, you use this one to patch. That is the ACPI. It's very simple now. The boot is simple too. Now I added this one here. It's for the Broadcom, the DW1560 or the DW1820A, which is the Broadcom Wi-Fi and Bluetooth combo. The default volume, whatever I want to boot it from, I put it there. So this is the boot. Devices. So what do you put in the device? Your ACPI platform ID. This config file will work with all. Well, if I say all, people are going to complain. But I did this one with HD 4400 all the way up to HD 8650. The only thing you need to change, you need this one, period. So this one, you have to go to OpenCore website and see which platform ID is supported, and you use the correct one. The next one you want is the PCI root, which is also show you the Broadcom, the BCM 4352. The DW1820A is the 4350. USB, delete this one. So all you have in USB is add clock ID, fix ownership, inject. Disable driver, I don't have it anymore because I don't have the VBox HFS in the EFI folder anymore. Make it simple. No more. The GUI, you can put whatever you want so it will show up. Custom, make sure you have the USX recovery, but on this one you won't have the recovery for the Big Sur at this moment, and the Clover people are working on it. So the graphic inject, no, none of these, and I put the same platform ID, which is the same as the device, to confirm this one right here, 591B, kernel and kext patches. So Apple RTC, if you patch it, this one, that's why Clover on the HP laptop, you don't have the BIOS screen that say the RTC timer is wrong or something. kernel line big, kernel PM, kext kernel to patch. I don't patch anything. So if you look at your old, you're gonna patch like crazy in there. You don't need to patch anything anymore. Kext to patch. What do I patch? So I patch, well, this one has the I2C controller. Then I patch this for the touchscreen. Okay, I patch the external icon and also enable trim on SSD. That's all. So if you look at yours, I'm sure you patch a whole bunch of them. Quartz. Now this is important. So thanks to Open Runtime incorporated into the Clover, now you use the Quartz from OpenCore. So I move all the one that is needed to yes, so it's easier to see. Okay, and everything else is no. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a sample config on my website so you can go there and download. RT variable is the same. This one right here no longer works on the big server, but it won't hurt anything. SM BIOS, you have to choose the correct one. So this one I use is MacBook Pro 14.2. System parameter. Now custom user ID. This is the one from your BIOS. Make sure you get that. Inject kext detect. Inject system ID. Yes. For the people who couldn't get the iMessage to work, make sure you run the iMessage debug and it has no error. Run many times and it should come out the same. That means the NVRAM is working and the reporting is correct. Alright, that is the config. When you get this config, what do? All you need to do is to find out the devices inside, change the devices using your device in your system. Modify this one. So the platform ID, okay, for it to boot so you can have full acceleration. And the SM BIOS. All you need to do is to change those two and you will boot nicely. And this MLB is 17 digit. You can put whatever you want in here. The ROM, to make it so that it's unique to your system, this is your MAC address on your EN0. What is the EN0? Open Registry Explorer, search for EN0. So whatever your EN0 is, this is the Wi-Fi. Then you go to your network and then you go to Advanced, you go to Hardware. This is your MAC address. Then you put in here so it's unique. Alright, that's important to get iMessage and everything's to work. I have here the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and this one in here is the DW1560. So it's 94352Z, which is a smaller version. When you download it, whatevergreen, the 14.4 when you extract it inside of whatever green, you will have the PNLF. So you use that one, rename it to .aml, and put it in the ACPI folder. If we keep updating all the time, so we should rename it so that we remember which one we're using. So right here, PNLF 144. And I also have the PNLF here that was working before too. But always use the latest one inside that whatever green. So what does this one do? It will give you the maximum brightness of your screen. Without this one, you won't have this, the scale, the brightness slider. You don't see the brightness slider. That means you don't have the correct PNLF. For the newer laptop from Skylake, you use the plug DRT INA NIA or whatever. What does this one do? This one will give you the speed steps. So it's like power management, ACPI power management. The next one you have is the EC USB-X. Now, the older version you can use SSDT EC, but with the Clover, you can actually patch these EC. But I make this one because sometimes it's very confusing to use the EC USB-X, because if not, if you don't have this one, you have the instant wake on the newer Catalina or Big Sur. You go to the manual, and inside here you will see your frame buffer. Yes, you also sometimes you have to choose the right one, even though. So for instance, this one is KB Lake. So if you go to, you look at is this a mobile or is it desktop? So what do I use? 591B. So I use 591B right here, mobile. See that? So you choose the right one and it will boot correctly. So how do you get this one? If you use Hacking Tool, you go to PCIe and you see this Broadcom right here. You right click and you copy the device path. So every system has different device path. So you open any text editor. Now that is the device path right there for your laptop or whatever. See that? It has to be exactly the same. A lot of people keep asking for the EFI folder. Maybe there is not this one. It's different. So you have to understand how to get these. With the hacking tool, you can patch. So you're going to patch audio device also. This is, you better watch out on this one. This one is KB Lake 591B. Export the patch. You include the PCI's device. So you generate the patch, alternate A, alternate C. You open this one, alternate V. So alternate S. So now we're going to put on the desktop, and this one is NV, or you're going to Pro 142 devices. Alright, so now when we open this up, inside the devices, you have all these properties. So, open them up and find BCM DW 1560, the audio. This is the audio right here. So this one is the ALC 295, so we patch with 77 layout ID. And now you have it. Audio device 77. But I don't use it is because inside the devices you have property, you have USB, which is fixed ownership, always yes, and the audio. So all I need to do is to inject the string 77 and reset HDA equal to yes, and the Apple ALC will work.